Sahil. Sahil was supposed to present. Okay, so do you guys remember the thing that we talked about, the just in time? Just in time production, as it is called. You guys remember?
Yes, sir.
About all these logistics, then we again connected back to the notion of logistical modernity in Virilio. Okay. Right? Just in time production. लॉजिस्टिक्स में बहुत पैसा है. Supply chains, contract farming. और क्या बोल रहे थे? And we were talking about the city. Huh? Huh? Sir? Talking about the city, right? I think what Virilio was talking about, that became slightly clearer, the discussion. City, the city where there are slums, where there is and then town, there is outskirts village, and where who lives where, right? Going back to Engels and city, yes, we talked about civil lines and क्या है थोड़ा याद कराओ मुझे.
So we talked about Delhi and various places in Delhi. Then we talked about Shahid Amin, Chauri Chaura, that is yours. And then we discussed about Engel's study of Paris. And then we discussed about logistics, Amazon and CBR and capitalism, new logistics being new form of capitalism and real-time production. Uh,
Real time,
then
what's
we
real
all
time? Real time, which is also just in time.
Yes, sir. Just-in-time manufacturing production, and how books that are after being placing an order that is being produced, and the question of labor now, because the labor question comes into being when this kind of production is taking place.
Yeah.
Also called as supply chain capitalism, and
What is that?
so supply chain capitalism.
Oh,
We
that's
used
right.
the
That's
term.
right. The supply chains. Yeah. And in that, because of all this, the speed has gone up. The speed of
Yes, sir.
circulation.
The
And
speed.
that's where we connected with Virilio. And if there is such a high speed, Vaishali, thank you for reminding velocity, supply chain capitalism, and we also had a
So
little
we do.
formula. Little formula, something. What was that? Distance divided by time. Okay, just in
So
time.
sorry to interrupt. Can you see the flowchart? It's in the
Yes,
presentation, which I found
yes.
on just-in-time concept.
Okay, very nice. Let's look at it. Everybody can see this? Just in time concept.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, this is played out here like some really great, amazing idea, right? Uninterrupted workflow, customer delight. Look at that. We'll all be happy with it. long time supply relationship, long term, waste elimination, continuous improvement. It sounds like the panopticon, just continuous, that kind of notion of power, which is continuous, right? In that Foucault says, total quality control, long term relationship. Yeah, but you have some more slides?
So while I was reading this, that what is just-in-time production? What are the companies or brands which are following this concept? So I came across this Toyota company,
Uh,
and they have told a little bit strategy, not in a long-term thing, and they are following this strategy.
mm,
So they don't waste time in producing all of the cars in one time. Rather, they produce on demand.
that's right.
That's it.
Yeah, so that's so when they produce and demand, they don't waste anything. This one is presented as a great ecological thing, right? Like it looks like efficiency. It's very ecological. There's waste elimination. There's continuous improvement. All good things are in here, right? It's like a very good thing. What else? Anybody found out something on this just in time? Is it as good as it appears in this chart, in this picture? What is that uninterrupted workflow? What is that? That means what? You will be made to work 24 hours or something, you know? So, but what we want to understand is that just-in-time production is a particular response. It's what has, it is a particular way in which capital is organizing itself, right? And capital is trying to address its own crisis by doing this. So it's not a favor they're doing anyone by bringing in this just-in-time production, like say the contract farming now, say with regards to the farm laws. In the farm laws, what are the farm laws doing? The farm laws is bringing in just-in-time production, right? Contract farming, which means that if McDonald's, I gave you this example, I think in the last class. What was I telling about the burger, McDonald's?
So you told that how that the farming and the reason why contract farming and all these are because it will directly connect these companies like McDonald and all these Reliance companies who are into grocery and all these business, and they can directly purchase it there and they can make the thing in very less time. Means directly they are acquiring things from there and then they are whatever kind of reform then they are doing or making it, and then the finished product is ready in just some time. Otherwise the channels become very much long and then they have to buy it from another party and then they have to process it. So this whole mechanism becomes very swift and very easy because directly they'll purchase and they'll make it.
Yeah, but when you say it becomes very swift and easy, it feels again like a very good thing, right? It's the best thing to happen, and we should all welcome it. And this same thing about this chart. Look at the way it is presented, as though it's a great thing happening. And waste elimination, oh my God, what can be better than waste elimination? What can be better than clean air? What can be better than eco-friendly this thing? So it's presented as some eco-friendly thing, and doing away with inefficiencies. So they will say, oh, while bringing in the grains and the vegetables from the farmer to the retailer. That's what I was telling you. From the, yeah, customer delight, it's a nice ice cream or something, the customer, you feel so delighted to have it, Uh, yeah. So, so it's a very good biryani, you got there, you love it, and it's a yummy taste. It's it's almost like that. So, so when they say, okay, all the fruits and vegetables and the grain, they will up, as soon as it's grown, we directly bring it to the final customer. So all this MSP, all this go down. Now it is true that say a lot of the food grains are eaten by rats in the go downs. So, but if you give it to these companies, and anyways, you have Reliance stores, and what are those stores in Delhi? Apple, not Apple, like yeah, Apple stores or something they're called. All these big malls and all. So yeah,
Imagine
not even
Apple.
no, not the Apple, the phone one, the other, the super
Shuffle.
stores. Huh?
Shuffle
Which one?
is also.
Yeah, Shuffle or whatever it is. So you don't even have to do cold storage, or maybe a little bit of cold storage facilities that are needed. So directly you get. So it feels like, yeah, let's eat fresh. And so, no, so as soon as the demand happens, it is directly connected to the farm, it is directly connected to the factory, it is directly connected to the this thing. So there is no inventory needed, there's no warehouse needed. You cotton that price. There is one, I think one ad or something about Pepsi. The Pepsi, not the bottle one, but with the can. So the can I think it uses aluminum to make the can. So aluminum has to come from the mines, from some mine somewhere. So imagine if you are drinking a can of Pepsi in Delhi, maybe the aluminum, the mineral used or the metal used in the can, maybe it comes from a mine in Brazil. So when was that mined? Was it mined like 10 years ago and they had made it into aluminum sheets, or 1 year ago? Or maybe if you are drinking Pepsi in that can today, maybe it was mined just a week back. So why do they need to mine a lot of ore and already make those aluminum sheets, and then store it somewhere, and then make them really thin, and then finally roll it into a can? So instead of doing all of that, which meant storage. That means you have to store the aluminum, because you do not know, the demand is fluctuating, right? You don't know how much. I mean, now say the summer has suddenly taken off after this winter, and it's very quick, and suddenly like there's a massive demand for cold drinks. So immediately now you have to cater to this supply. Now you want to give more Pepsi, more cold drinks means more cans, and more cans means more aluminum, and more aluminum means more demand on those mines. So companies are constantly trying to figure out how to cut the cost. But cut the cost also means cut on labor, because so that you don't need too many people, you know, hauling it up and down and all of that, right? Um, so, um, so what you see is that it's all about increasing the speed. So when Virilio is talking about speed and politics, the speed, or when, what is that name? The Hitler's collaborator, uh, when he
Goebbels.
Goebbels, yeah. So when Goebbels sees this acceleration, circulation, speed, in fact, the term he uses is this something to do with animation, right? The kind of something in motion, he says. So that motion, that's what Virilio is also focusing on. And with the kind of acceleration in production, with the kind of speed and so-called efficiency in circulation. So which means that from the farm to the customer, from the mine to the customer drinking Pepsi, you can close that entire cycle very fast. So as soon as the mining is done, and then the aluminum sheets are made, and then it is rolled into a can, and then Pepsi is poured into that and sealed and immediately served to the customer, and the money is already taken. So that cycle has to be finished as quickly as possible, right? So that's the circulation, that's the speed, that's the velocity that one is talking about. So through this also, yeah, let's look at that thing again. What was flashed here, I hardly could see it. Right. So you see again, we are coming to what Virilio was saying, and then the zombie in a state like that, in such a condition, in such a, you know when you are subjected to, or when you are experiencing this kind of a speed, then there are good chances that we all become zombies, because we are responding to that, because these are all affecting us in real time. We all affected. So the kind of education gets affected, the kind of health gets affected, the kind of mental health. So this is not an isolated thing, right? Or I don't know, or new, or the youngsters become more and more like, the more and more demanding, as in they become impatient, and they want like things right away. So that kind of a culture which develops around it. So it's not like a isolated thing that it happens just in the flow of production, or in work culture, or it's just related to companies. That's maybe affects the kind of movies that you make. Increasingly, the kind of movies that are coming. Be it the ones on Netflix, or all these Patal Lok, and Patal Lok, and all these so-called like more experimental, radical kind of movies. They all seem to be restless, and the kind of politics it gives you is, I think, again, the Kangana versus Rihanna kind of politics, right? The Rihanna versus Kangana. And I hope you guys know who I'm talking about. Right? These are very, very eminent scholars in political science. So I'm sure you know both of them. You're reading them all the time. You're seeing them all the time, right? So yeah. So Saptaparni, you have something to say, I guess.
Yeah, sir. There's a presentation that I was supposed to deliver on the first chapter.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just wanted to take your permission if Ankit and I can present together, if that would be
Okay.
okay.
That's
Yeah,
fine. Yeah, that's fine.
okay. Okay.
Where's
So
Ankit? Okay, yeah, Ankit. Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Where
yeah,
is where is Sahil? Sahil is missing today. Yeah, carry on, Saptaparni.
yeah. So hopefully I don't screw Christopher M. Borman article too much, but yeah. So okay, so the chapter one is about the Haitian origins of the zombie. Basically, what is the purpose of this article? The purpose of this article is to make us aware of.
This is what is the name of the book? Just mention that, because you never know. Some people might not know what you're talking about. What's the name of the book?
Yeah. So the name of the book is Dharma and the Dead, by Christopher M. Mormon. And I'm presenting the first chapter of the book Dharma and the Dead. And the first chapter's name is Haitian Origins of the Zombie. And so, what's the first chapter about? The first chapter is about making us aware of the cultural origins of the zombie, and not just mindlessly consuming the zombie cinema and the games that we encounter ourselves with, and also be aware of the cultural origins of the zombie and what zombie can present for some people. So So, like before reading this article, I was not aware of the Haitian origins of the zombie, and after reading this article, I was like, "Whoa, okay, so an alternative narrative also exists." And sometimes the alternative narrative is forgotten because some people have, because some people are more concerned with the entertainment. So that's there. And so a brief outline of what the chapter is about. The brief, yeah. So the chapter talks about the origins of the zombie. We will talk about the history of the Haitian folklore and what the history covers. The history covers discovery by the Europeans, encountering the natives, the slave trade, the religion aspect of the Haitian religion, the syncretism between Christianity and Voodoo, resistance to colonization and Catholicism. Uh, we will cover cannibalism and dehumanization of the groups. We will also cover the distortions that were created by the main narrative about the Haitian voodoo. The voodoo versus voodoo in the sense of VODOU and VODOO. So we will cover all these points. So I will start with the history first. And the island of Hispaniola. What's the pronunciation? Um, the island of Spaniola uh, is constituted by the western half is constituted by Haiti or San Domingo, as it was named, or as it was named by the Spanish conquerors. And Columbus came in, encountered Haiti in 1492. And as soon as he stepped in, he was like, wow, I got more native slaves and we can make slaves of these native. And okay. After that, the Europeans realized that these natives were not very good candidate for slaves, and the Africans were imported for slavery. And so by the 16th century, African slaves started coming in Haiti to aid colonization. By 1697, the Spanish interest in the island began to wane because they found more because they found silver and other natural resources in other part of Latin America. So they were like, okay, fine, the interest is waned now. So they gave the land to the French people by the Treaty of Ryswick in by 1697. And after that, San Domingo became the richest and the most populous European colony, and it contributed 40% of France's foreign trade. Uh, but the slaves in French colony were not having an awesome life because their life expectancy was around 7 years after their arrival in Haiti. They were probably treated worse than animals, and most of the slaves were also women. So they were forcefully, they were forcefully being made, but being mated with with the African slaves, male African slaves who were called as studs, to create more slaves for their masters. So the and 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 there were obviously some efforts made by the Europeans to eradicate the culture of the Haitians. So and by 1804 the Haitians achieved freedom, thanks for the slave revolution that was in which voodoo played a very important role. And by 1804, the Haitians achieved freedom because France was also facing its own problem because it was receiving pressure from the Britishers as well as there were internal disturbances within Haiti in the form of slave revolution. Probably they got influenced by the American and the French revolutions that were happening around that time. So So that's how they
Okay,
received.
should we go to Ankit's presentation? He's also presenting on the same thing. How have you guys divided it?
Yeah, the we had a thing, like he will also come in with each topic, like I will finish and then Ankit can start, kind of thing.
Okay,
Yeah, I
but
can
yeah,
resume
let's
now.
go over to Ankit. Yeah.
So just now we have the overview of how the slaves, African slaves, were treated in the Haitian island. Their conditions was like worse than animals, or like can be equated with animals. They were all only used to serve out the masters, and it is really crude to see that their l- life expectancy there was just reduced to 7 years. So we can just all imagine like how brutal the things were for them. And one other thing which I found quite abnormal or harsh was like how pregnant women were even made to work until the day of the birth of the child. So that was quite. So now we can just see how Catholicism and voodoo was intertwined and how was the relationship. So mainly the Catholicism was used by the slave masters to control the African slaves so that their own African religion or cannot be used by them to revolt against the masters, or so. That's how we found there were like a lot of conversions happening. And we can also see through one example how it was the ambivalence character of the Catholic Christians, as it was shown here, like the Dominican priest Bartolome de las Casas. He was like he used to hire native slaves of the Dominica and Hispaniola island, but after few time he released all his slaves due to their like ridiculous conditions. So we can see how later he propounded let's not exploit the native labor, but instead we should bring labor from the Africa. So that was quite ridiculous to see. Like although he was like one of the most hard voices on humanitarian treatment, but at the same time he differentiated between the own native slaves and the foreign African black slaves.
Ankit, can you go to that passage where there is this portion
So
from the
it's
text?
on page 23, last paragraph.
Acha. Can you show it on the screen? Can you flash it?
So I am like having a hard copy of the text.
Okay, okay, okay.
So if someone
Saptaparni,
else can do that, yeah.
do you have the text with you? Can you flash it here on the screen so others can see it? Because La Casa's, that's a he was a Jesuit priest, and he was taken by Columbus there, not just by Columbus, but the Portuguese state at that time, the Portuguese monarchy, in fact, to kind of spread Christianity. And La Casas, he went against the colonizing mission. He said that this is not the way, that as Christians we should be treating anybody else. So he thought that this was going against the word of God. This is going against the teachings in the Bible. But then later, when instead of a native Indian labor, they decided to get African slaves. He was apparently fine with that. But that's the thing that you need to keep in mind. That and this is, say, if we are talking about, well, this is quite early, of course, 1492, 1498, 1507 or something. This is just before, and this is around the time when the Mughal Empire is going to, like, the Mughals are about to enter India. This is just before Babur comes around. um,
So
so in
am I
fact,
visible? Like I've tried
yeah,
to share.
just
Like
yeah,
is it
just
visible?
magnify it. Yeah, just magnify it. And then and but so that's the thing, it's a bit like the way we are talking about just-in-time production. Well, it has a lot of good things, just-in-time production, but the main thing is
It's on
not
the
like.
next page, Ankit.
Like
24.
from last paragraph it is starting, so I
हाँ,
just
last paragraph से start हो रहा है.
yeah, one important example of Christian ambivalence towards slavery from here on.
Yeah, but I'm not able to read it. I think you need to blow it up
Highlight it,
more.
no?
Yeah. No, you have to magnify it, just
Yes,
to
sir.
just increase the size.
Now
Yes,
it's
yes, yes.
fine.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
This is
can
good.
do it like once everyone is reading.
That's very tough. Yeah. छोड़
No,
दो
it's
छोड़ दो
fine
ये नहीं हो रहा है. Yeah, this
because
is
like I'm
yeah.
like
Uh,
joining through mobile, so it isn't on my
yeah,
full
yeah, I
screen.
could see. Yeah, yeah, you quite innovative that way. But yeah, but that's okay. So yeah, but did you guys go to the go to the person? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so here you will see female slaves were frequently raped. Yeah, go down. Catholicism and voodoo. Yeah, okay. Okay. Evoke as Christians, as Africans. Yeah, so one important example of Christian ambivalence towards slavery appears in the person of Dominican priest de la Casas. Scroll up. Yeah, one of the most heralded voices for the humanitarian treatment of the New World natives. So the New World, you know what the New World natives were called? They were called the Tainos. They're called the Taino Indians. Taino. They are the Taino Indians. Tainos. That
And there's
specific.
another word also, I guess.
Uh,
Ara or something, I don't know.
yeah, no, yeah. So Lacasas traveled to Hispaniola as a soldier of fortune soon after Columbus' initial explorations, procuring land as well as his own native slaves. He underwent what some call a dual conversion. His first conversion occurred shortly after his arrival in Hispaniola, when he became but it's actually Haiti, later the actual name is Haiti. This Hispaniola is, I think, a Spanish name. So when he became a priest, years later, Lacasas expressed disdain for the poor treatment of the natives, blah, 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 this thing. And then in an effort to spare the natives severe abuse, however, Lacasas, protector of the Indians, proposed the importation of slaves to take up the burden of forced labor. The so it was like, okay, these Indians are kind of okay, but the blacks, the Africans are like not humans, they are like subhumans. So with them, they can never become good Christians. Hence, we can treat them as slaves. That's the Lakasa's kind of a thinking. The suggestion, which he also later came to regret, was obviously favorably received, as African slaves quickly became a staple in the New World. While some have tried to extend the criticism of Lacasas to include blame for the inception of the slave trade, the reality that his case provides a good illustration of the ambivalent attitude of the church to slavery and to the people of Haiti. But where are the persons on the zombie? Did you guys cover that, Ankit and Saptaparni, or anybody else? Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll move on.
It's from page 29.
Yeah,
Subsequently,
just
you can
present.
continue for the zombie.
Yeah, yeah. Whoever wants to say on the zombie between the two of you, or anybody else, specifically on the zombie, just tell us a few things, and then
Yes.
we'll go there. Yeah.
So, okay, so the emergence of the zombie is from the slave history of the Haiti. Like the people of Haiti is actually do not fear the zombies, what they have is petty for the zombies. Like they feel they are more fearful about the possibility of being zombies themselves. So, the zombie actually represents the inhumanity that existed from 1625 to 1800 of African slaves, the relentless misery and subjugations. So the Haitian slaves were like if we die, then we can possibly escape this inhuman conditions that we are in, and we can go back to Guinea or Africa in general after our death. And however, if they commit suicide, which is very common among slaves, they would be condemned to roam around in the plantations in eternity as soulless zombies. So, after the Haitian Revolution, the myth of the zombie was incorporated within Haiti's folklore, and and then the concept of boucans or magical the sorceries and all came in, and they started, and you know a- after that, and they started the shamans and all. So they were the people who were responsible for bewitching the undead as free labor. And so the zombies started representing the fear of being, not free from their, not free, but not, dead as well. So they started representing that fear. And then the white people came in and they started interjecting and interlooping. They for them, then zombies began to represent various social evils, such as, representing capitalism or civil rights movements, or just as in the form of entertainment, because they get bored with their lives, so they're like, okay, let's play zombie games, or in the form of apocalypse, the anxieties of being dead, and how to overcome the end of the world and all that. However, in these narration, the symbolism that zombie represented for Haiti's people became sidelined, or it got lost. So so that's what I want to say about zombies. Anything you want to add, Ankit?
I think that's fine. Like,
Yeah, anybody else wants to add anything here? So he talks about Romero's movies also, no?
Yeah, he talks about Romero's movies. Romero is considered as the grandfather of zombie movies, and he kind of introduced zombies into the popular culture. His 1968 movie Night of the Living Dead. In the Night of the Living Dead, he actually does not use the word zombie. He used ghouls for the flesh eating people. It was in the Dawn of the Dead that he started actually using the word zombies. So he was actually very fascinated by zombies, and he's considered as the godfather of the zombie movies. So
Even in
I think,
this, uh,
yeah, go ahead. Yes.
in this the second paragraph that's there, if you could move forward, you could scroll down. So I think this paragraph is something like, here it's written that though the Haitian manifestation garnered the most traction, at least until Romero, zombie also appear in Africa in both spiritual and physical forms. It seemed most likely that the tradition of soul stealing existed in the magical tradition of many African tribes, and that these took on more immediate physical form when confronted with the reality of slavery. So, sir, this is somewhere, they are, I mean, bringing both of them together, the spiritual and physical form.
Mm-mm. That's right.
so it
So,
was like it is like given before also. Like the African reincarnation, birth and death cycle is different. So like at the same time, the two bodies can be present, which was like called as living dead. Like suppose someone die, so he's roaming around, and his some spiritual parts of the dead can also be reincarnated in the someone who is being born nearly or like in the family. So that's how it was described. Like also it is physically present in the newborn baby, but it is also like spiritually roaming around in the form of spirit.
Mm, mm. Yeah, there is something about the transmigration of souls, or karma or something, where there's a endless repetition of birth and rebirth, you know, um, that kind of a thing. And but yeah, so but Romero takes it slightly somewhere else, and as we were discussing in the last lecture, the zombie is then not just something which is from some anthropological, tribal, or among the slaves or something, but the zombie is something which is near us, which is us basically, right? And that's what happens with Romero. Romero makes it come alive, you know, and that's where what we were talking about. I mean, when the zombies are moving around the mall, and then there is that conversation. Did you guys finally watch some of the Romero movies? Because you see that conversation that takes place, and there's this conversation, but why are they coming inside a mall? And then they say that, look, they come into the mall because they still remember, from their earlier lives, which is our life today. you they still remember that that's the place we got to go to. So if there's a zombie attack in Delhi, you will see that most of the malls will be will be where the zombies will all head to. The slums will be safe, because that is the object of attraction. That's where the nice things are kept. And similarly, if there's a loot or plunder in the city, that's where the attack will first take place there. With the Black Lives Matter movement, you had all those looting and plunder. And where was those? Those looting will, of course, will head to all these nice fancy stores. Right. So, and then what we see is that with Romero, we have something like what so Virilio is saying, that with the speed, with the velocity, with that acceleration, we're all zombies there, because we are just kind of responding to a speed or velocity which is not of our creation, right? It is something which is like a Frankenstein. It's not even like the capitalists are conspiring to do this. No, that's not the point. It feels like there is a system in place, which keeps on like going on and on. Um, it's like the ocean currents or something, they just spiral out of out of bounds, uncontrolled. And there is, and a little bit what Marx talks about in the Communist Manifesto, that with capital, each new barrier is something which it takes as something to be overcome. And the moment it overcomes any barrier, it has yet another barrier to overcome. So it is like a never-ending thing. It's like you are in a game of dice, and you want to keep on playing, no matter you lose everything, you lose everything. जुआ खेलता है ना इंसान, डाइस खेलता है वो,
Yes, sir.
या तो वो सब कुछ लूट जाएगा, घर परिवार बीवी मियाँ सब कुछ फिर भी वो खेलते रहेगा. We are talking about something like that, right? That's the logic of capital accumulation. So yeah, which movie is this, Gurnur? So that's where you see that what you see in this thing in this zombie narrative, which gets kind of which changes, from the Haiti narrative after Romero. You see that is something to do with the kind of things we talked about, speed, and what Marx is talking about, the frenetic pace of capitalist accumulation. Um, But one thing I want you guys to remember is, I at some point mentioned the thing about allegory. We are still not able to go there. I still feel like we are still doing the groundwork and keep. Okay, Night of the Living Dead. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. There's that black guy in that. There's the black guy, um, and and yeah, he gets shot at the end. Because the police or those people who will save them, they are coming, and then this guy he's fought off all those zombies in the night. He had a tough time, and he had to fight these other guys also who had taken refuge in that house to save themselves from the zombie attack. And then at the end, he himself is mistaken for a zombie. And that's where again the black question comes. So in a way, the film kind of, as I was telling you, makes the zombie very contemporary. It does not just treat the zombie as something more anthropological and something to do with the specific experience of slavery, but brings it bang into our present day life, even among the middle classes. And then towards the end, with that one scene, with the black man there and the way he is shot dead, maybe if he was a white guy, for all you know, maybe the guy shooting would have had a second thought, thinking that, oh, maybe this is someone who is trapped there, and this is the person we have come here to save. But instead, they think, no, maybe this is yet another zombie, and they shoot him dead. So in a way, it again kind of brings you back to Haiti, and that's the power of Romero's movies. That's why his movies are a cult classic. So um, it's a niche kind of a film. But then in the Dawn of the Dead, that becomes more clearer. You know, I do not know if there's a black character or something in Dawn of the Dead, but in this Night of the Living Dead, it's very very interesting. Yeah, you're right. That the black hero mentions in the movie that his grandfather used to say that when the hell will be filled, the dead will walk the earth. This is such a powerful expression here. This is a hell, right? Hell, narc. uh, the too many people who have died and gone to hell, and it's filled now. There's no space anymore, right? And now what will happen? The dead will now walk the earth. But then there's another thing also, if you guys notice, because and that's the thing with to do with the virus. Okay, coronavirus, contagion, right? Because there's some disease which is spread, and something I mentioned also in the last class, because of which a person does not completely die. The brain is still alive. So in a way, the body is dead. So if you chop down the limbs, or you attack a zombie with a sword, I don't think it pains them. There's no pain. I think, I don't know if they're still warm blooded. Maybe they have gone cold. I don't know. Maybe they're like a dead body like that. But the brain is still alive. So, and in that film, you see, the oh my God, that did you guys see the scene with the mother and the daughter in this Night of the Living Dead? It is such a touching scene, but at the same time you get so horrified by it. And that's in the bunker of the house, the basement of the house. And that's when the daughter again suddenly rises up, you know, the as the undead. Because the mother doesn't know at that time, that this is what has happened to her daughter. And then so there is some kind of a infection. Um, that she's God, because she got attacked by, I think, a zombie on the way. So that thing, that contagion, no, that thing has spread. It has come to her body. So she dies, but she does not die completely. And at some point she wakes up, and that's when she becomes a zombie and terrifies the hell out of her mother. And then with the mother, and then everybody who then dies in that house that night, they all become zombies, you know, that kind of a thing. Anything else?
So there is this like a beautiful line which I like. Can we just say that it is the example of an allegory? Like, can I read it?
Huh? Come again, Ankit?
Uh, Sorry. So I am like I was saying like there is this beautiful line in the like almost last pages. Can we say that this is an allegory? Can I read that line if you give me the permission?
Yeah, last line of what?
Page number 40 of the same reading, the Dharma of the Dead, first chapter.
Okay,
Like, can I
okay.
read it? Like, some have argued that the modern zombie stands in for all displaced people, refugees as interstitial beings, feared for their implied need to consume without contributing to society. Rene
Yeah.
Desperate likens colonialism to a generalized zombification of humanity, marking Haiti as the eye of the storm.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What is it? Explain it. Flash it. Anusha, can you flash it? This portion for everyone to see.
I'm sorry, sir. I did not listen. I wasn't able to hear.
Yeah, the last line of that chapter.
Page number 40, like it's just above the conclusion.
Okay.
Can you find it?
Is this the one you're
Just
talking about?
Yeah.
yeah, from the first line. Some have argued, starting from that first line. No, same page, page
No, no.
number 40. Scroll down. Yeah,
Up, up,
scroll down.
up,
Starting first line of page number
up.
40.
Page, page number 40. Yeah. 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 Just
Yeah,
there.
first line.
Some have argued that the modern zombie stands in for all displaced people, refugees, as interstitial. इंटरस्टिशियल बोलने से इंटरस्टेट नहीं है, वो याद होता है, आईएसबीटी बोलते हैं ना, सॉरी. Interstitial, yeah, there's something like that, between two states, right? Between two,
Yeah,
like
between
between two
living and
things.
dead. Transition.
Yeah, yeah, refugees as interstitial beings, feared for their implied need to consume without contributing to society. Ren de Pestre likens colonialism to a generalized zombification of humanity, marking Haiti as the eye of the storm. So here this thing that there is a implied need to consume without contributing to society, right? So that's how the refugees are presented. The stereotype about the refugee. But just go back on this page. Yeah, okay. Let me read this thing. Yeah. Oh my God. There's also Agamben and all. The zombie, whether explicitly Haitian or derived from Romero's later innovations, retains its racial overtones. Richard Dyer, for example, describes horror as a predominantly white genre, in which blacks represent a primitive form of life, whereas whites stand in for death in the sense that they hold the power of life and death. Okay. Here, Dyer echoes Giorgio Agamben's notion of bare life as applied to black characters. They live but only in the most basic sense of bodies being alive. The other side of this coin, for both Agamben and Dyer, is Michael Foucault's discussion of biopower, by which the ruling class controls not only the means but the right to subjugate bodies and to determine who lives and who dies, while clearly applicable to both African and Haitian settings. Biopower and bare life have been more broadly applied beyond a simple black and white dialectic. Okay. Somebody wants me to explain the concept of bare life. What is that? What is bare life? Bare life. There is the term that he uses called homo sacer. You know, homo sacer. Homo sacer, the human who is sacred. We'll come to that, but
Yeah.
not to divert from this. This thing that the refugees are looked down upon as though they are like a zombie. This actually there's this um, other very interesting interpretation of the use of the zombie in Romero's films is that I was telling you, that not just refugees, and that's the problem with a lot of this literature. You got to be careful with a lot of this literature in critical theory. Even this book, The Dharma of the Dead, is that the zombie is not just like the black or the refugee or the, okay, in the Indian context, you might say the Dalit or something like that. No, that's not the thing. With Romero, just about everyone can be a zombie. You don't have to be. I mean, a white guy can be a zombie. You don't have to be necessarily. वो बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में हाशिए पे जो है ना हाशिए पे वो जो मार्जिन में जो है सिर्फ वो zombie नहीं है so like say Mary Shelley's notion of the Frankenstein or you have in any of the many examples where, okay, you say the nuclear explosion, the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and all that, well, that was made by humans, and the humans are eating up humans. We are on a self-destructive path, and all of that. So even when you can say even the American president, U.S. president is a zombie, you know, you can say that even sorry, yeah. So, okay, I think I'm here. So yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so you see, so it's not just like the marginalized, this, that, and the other. No, the zombie. I mean, these are the people who go to the mall. They're all like zombies. So keep that in mind. Anything else? Okay. So what is an allegory? I wanted to go in that direction and develop this further. Okay, before we go to the allegory part, what about that Marina Vishmidt something article? Somebody was supposed to read that and come. I mean, all of you, of course.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Suman Sahu, let's get into that.
So, this article is very complex, but I tried to grab some few points.
Uh,
Yes, sir. So, in this article, Marina Vishmidt is dealing with she's presenting a survey, a study of genealogical survey, like how the terminology of bodies came into transition और कैसे ये डेवलप हुआ idiom of bodies. तो उसके लिए वो जो जूडिथ बटलर का आर्टिकल है वो उससे भी डील कर रही हैं और उनके जो बाकी के काम हैं उनसे भी एंगेज कर रही हैं. तो सबसे पहले वो बोलती हैं कि कैसे बॉडीज जो है वो अकेडमिक्स की डिबेट्स और एक्टिविस्ट डिस्कोर्सेज में आया और कैसे बॉडीज एक ऑब्जेक्ट से सब्जेक्ट में ट्रांजिशन हुआ इज हाउ बॉडीज transition from not just as subject but as subjects also. तो वो
not just as object, but as subject also, you mean?
yeah, yes.
And
So
what is Marina? I think that's her name, right? Saying that that's not possible. You know, you can't talk about the body itself as as a subject. You know, right? That's what she's trying to get at, right? In the entire article, that's a thrust.
yes, sir. And
You
how
know, so how could you do that? You know, you can't, right? And she's like saying, oh, hold on. You know, the corporeality, the corporeal, the precarity of the body, where the body is itself kind of under threat, the vulnerability, again, all this refugee, black, transgender, you know, all of those marginalities that is so invested into the notion of the body. She's kind of trying to critique that, and Butler is a major figure there, right?
yes, sir.
Yeah. Carry on. Sorry, I was just trying to like push you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. She refers to parliament of bodies, like parliament of bodies emerged as a program against that European migration crisis. और कैसे ये एक nexus था between identity politics and progressive politics against the whole capitalist migration crisis. तो ये उसको भी लेकर आती हैं कि कैसे जैसे जूडिथ बटलर के लिए जो अर्बन स्पेसेस था वो बॉडीज की परफॉर्मेटिविटी का एक स्पेस था और बटलर कहती है कि जो पॉलिटिक्स है जो पॉलिटिकल है वो इन अर्बन स्पेसेस में ही परफॉर्म होता है. जो मरीना है वो इस चीज को क्रिटिक कर रही हैं और hello.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Carry on.
Yeah. Just a minute. और वो कह रही हैं कि बटलर के पूरे कॉन्सेप्ट में जो बॉडी का सेंट्रलिटी है वो पॉलिटिक्स जो उसका पर्पस है असेंबली का पर्पस होना सिर्फ उसी में रिड्यूस होता जा रहा है. लाइक पूरी बॉडी का जो पर्पस है उसकी परफॉर्मेटिविटी का जो पर्पस है वो केवल उनकी असेंबली करने में ही रिड्यूस होते जा रहा है. इसके साथ ही वो जब वल्नरेबिलिटी और प्रिकैरिटी की बात करती हैं तो वो कैपिटलिज्म में बॉडी का क्या सिचुएशन है कहाँ सिचुएट होते हैं उसके लिए बात करते हैं. तो वो कहते हैं कि कैसे कैपिटलिज्म में एक प्रोडक्टिव बॉडी का आइडिया आता है जिसमें वो अपनी जो बॉडीज हैं जो इंडिविजुअल्स हैं वो अपनी इंडिविजुअलिटी को ज्यादा एम्फसाइज करते हैं कि इंडिविजुअल कितना लेबर दे सकता है कैपिटलिज्म में कितना ज्यादा वो प्रोडक्टिव है ना कि वो एज अ सोशल बॉडी वो जो एज अ सोशल बॉडी की अपनी आइडेंटिटी है वो त्याग देते हैं. तो फॉर एक्सप्लेनिंग दिस वो कहती है कि एज वर्कर्स बिकम easier to hire and fire, they are increasingly compelled to compete against one another to consent to work for less money than others. This competition makes it seem to workers that they do not belong to a class or social body but must rely on their individual self or biological body. तो कैसे social body का concept जो है वो subordinate हो जाता है एक biological body के concept में और केवल productivity
Okay, Suman, you can stop there. Okay, you can stop there. So, how the notion of the social body gets subsumed or reduced to a biological body?
yes
That's a key point. Some people have class at 3:40, so I think we'll have to stop here. And anything anyone wants to point out before we end?
so there are 2-3 more points we can continue this in next class also.
Yeah. We can continue in the next class. So, so I want you. Sahil has not come today, so maybe we can hear Sahil's presentation. I think वो presentation देने के बाद वो भाग गया लगता है बेचारा, है ना? उसको बोलो कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, हम उसको परेशान नहीं करेंगे. So I'll see you in the next class. I'll send you one more reading on this point that we discussed today on the question of the zombie again with regard to property. And I hope you guys, what I'll do, I'll try to see if I can upload this lecture. We've got a YouTube link which I had prepared for the other class on called Critical Traditions in Political Theory, so that you can listen to it later also. So I'll try to do that. The other thing is that so that you get to revisit the lecture, because there's so many points I think you guys are not grasping, and you were just glossing over. But go over the readings again. The Marina Vishmidt reading is very, very important reading. It is slightly tough reading. I will give you one more, and we are going back again and again also to Virilio, so that things are clearer before we move on. So I'll give you two readings. I'll email it to you, and I will see you in the next class on Friday. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay
Thank you.
then. Yeah. Bye bye.